What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode. Thanks for hanging out. I know it's not the most joyous of occasions. Anytime you lose and you're coming in after a loss, it's never fun. But I appreciate you guys being here. I see some familiar faces already in the comments, which is great. Let's drop before we get too crazy. Here's the giveaway link. As always, if it's your first time watching, there is a form you fill out. We're going to be doing a giveaway later on in the live show. Fill out that form only one time, no matter how many times I post it throughout the episode. Just fill it out one time for me, please. And then later on, we're going to be drawing some winners for some cool Packer prizes. You do have to be here to claim your prize. So if you are not here for it, you will forfeit your prize, unfortunately. So check in periodically, hang out, make sure you're here for the giveaway, all that fun stuff. But yeah, I appreciate you guys being here, seeing a lot of familiar faces. Like I said, I see Ron in Appleton. Ron, good to see you, sir. The Tullys are back home. Glad you guys had safe travels. It sounds like the trip was great. Sounds like the kids weren't too crazy. Amy, good to see you. Thanks for checking in from Atlanta. We got Corey and Logan, as usual. Appreciate you guys swinging in from New Ulm. Swag Coda. Congratulations to Dakota on getting his first house not long ago. That's a huge milestone. So congrats, man. Proud of you. We got Derek coming in from South Dakota. Good to see you, Derek. We got Keith over. I don't know. Keith, I don't know if I know where you reside. I probably should, but my memory's not great. Casey, good to see you, Casey. How's everyone's week starting out? I know, like I said, I know the game isn't the highlight of the weekend or kicking us off into the week on a super positive note, but hopefully the week's going well. We have a lot to talk about, so we could probably just jump right in. Let's see here. So obviously the Bears beat the Packers 24-22. I'm reporting from my basement, which I've been here since Sunday night because the sky is falling in Green Bay. Oh wait, no, that's just how people are acting online. I can assure you, I drove by Lambeau Field tonight. Everything looks good. It's still standing. It hasn't been destroyed yet. The sun came out. Everything's still okay. I know based on how people are reacting that we're probably getting the first or second overall draft. Oh wait, no, we're in the playoffs yet. So let's just we can breathe. Obviously, it was frustrating. I'm with you. Frustration across the board. I know I was texting Tully during the game and messaging some other people as well. Frustrating, no doubt about it. I will tell you that regardless if Carlos Santos made that kick, regardless if our defense made a stand on that last series for them, regardless if we would have ran out the clock and kicked a game-winning field goal, it really doesn't change my confidence level going into the Eagles. Having one down week against Minnesota, you can kind of be like, okay, everyone has kind of a bad week, but then following it up with like another clunker really, really hurts the confidence. I'm generally a very optimistic person when it comes to Packers, and I still think like I'm probably more optimistic than most people when it comes to this weekend. Not the way you want to end a season at all. I think everyone could agree with that, whether you're a coach for the Packer, a coach for the Packers, a fan of the Packers, a player for the Packers. Even if you would have won that game, it's not the way you want to end the season. The team just felt so like off. I don't know what was going on. There's just so much that just felt off. So I don't know. I mean, it's, anytime you lose to a division rival, it's frustrating, but that's football. I will say, Sunday is going to be a very tough game, no doubt about it. And it's going to be a very tall task to beat the Eagles on Sunday. 110%. It's going to be a very tough one. But I see so many people online are like, the Packers last year, they went into the playoffs so red hot. They went into the playoffs so red hot. And The Packers this year don't have that momentum. And I think the Packers beating the Cowboys really put some like rose tinted glasses on us for last season. Yes, the Packers had a strong win in Minnesota. But let's talk about their December. So the Packers December last year, we lost to the New York Giants with Tommy DeVito as quarterback. Followed up, we allowed Baker Mayfield to have a perfect passer rating at Lambeau Field in a 34-20 victory over the Packers. We barely, and I mean barely, beat the Carolina Panthers, who earned the number 1 pick in this year's draft. Now they gave it to the Bears in a previous trade, but they earned the 1 pick, or the first overall pick. Very poor team, and we barely beat them. If you remember, they were in field goal range. They just didn't spike it fast enough to actually be able to get the field goal attempt off that would have put it into overtime. Barely beat the Carolina Panthers. Then we went into Minnesota. We rocked them. They had Nick Mullins starting at quarterback, which I think he's still on their team, maybe in some capacity. I don't know if he's technically their backup, but he looked horrible that game. He looked lost. So we beat them pretty sizably. And then we played a sloppy game against the Bears where we won 17-9. It's not like we went on this tear at the end of the season. The Bears were bad last year, worse than they are this year for sure. They were bad last year. They've loaded up on some weapons and pieces this past offseason. Now they still had a rocky end of their year where they went on a 10-game losing streak. However, they're better than they were last year. And I wouldn't say that we really took care of the game last year. We kept them in it and won 17-9. So yeah, I mean, sure, the Packers won their final 3 games last year and went into the playoffs off of some wins, but it's not like they were sizable wins against like Carolina, who's a very weak opponent, against the Chicago Bears, who, you know, if you were this team that's getting red hot and you're going against this Bears team that last year that was kind of given up on the year, it didn't really, their motivation was to knock us out of the playoffs. It's not like the Packers were really going in that hot. And I think that game in Dallas where we beat them in Dallas in the wild card, I think that made everyone think that like the Packers were more hot than they were. But the Packers heading into Dallas last year, I looked it up because I couldn't remember. They were 7.5-point underdogs, and the Packers rocked them. Dallas had a lot of plays just not go their way, and that's how it goes sometimes in the NFL. So to say it's impossible that the Packers beat the Eagles it's just ludicrous. Every game, there's shockers. Every game, it's a surprise. The Packers have been in almost every game this year. I think the first Lions game was the only game that they were like kind of out of it for I mean, the Minnesota games, both Minnesota games, Minnesota pretty much had them for 3/4 of the game. They softened up a little bit and then they tried to tighten back up. Unfortunately, they lost the momentum at that point and allowed the Packers to get back into it for both games. But really, I mean, and I'm not, and I should, I should really emphasize, because when I post clips online, people are thinking that I'm saying the Packers are going to win. I'm not necessarily saying that the Packers are definitely going to win or anything like that. But I think for fans to just be like, oh, there's no chance they win next week, there's no chance. It's almost like people just don't watch playoff football every year. I mean, every year you see teams get surprised. It's a very long road to the Super Bowl. I will say that. It's a very long road, especially when you're on the road. It's a very long road to the Super Bowl. And this year feels almost like one of the hardest paths to the Super Bowl for the Packers. You have the Eagles, who are a very, very good football team. And then if you beat them, you go to Detroit, who's a very, very good football team. Very good football team. And then, depending on how things shake out, now Minnesota, I would assume they're probably going to win at least their wild card game, but they've had a lot of close wins. I think they lead the NFL in wins by 1 score or less. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's a tough one for them on Monday night. But I don't know. I after the loss, everyone is just like, "Oh, that's it. That's it. This team's done. This team's done. What we need to fire Matt LaFleur. We need to fire Gutekunst. We need to get rid of Jordan Love. We need to do this. We need to do this. We need to find a true one receiver." And I get after games people are emotional, and I get it's frustrating to lose a game, and I understand all of these things, but there's no chance they get rid of Matt LaFleur. There's no chance they get rid of Gutekunst. There's no chance they get rid of Jordan Love right now. They say, everyone's like, we need a true one receiver, true wide receiver. Who? T. Higgins? We think he's a one receiver. He's lined up next to Jamar Chase. That makes everyone's life a little bit easier. Is he a true one receiver? I'm not sure. Tyreek Hill sounds like he might want out of Miami. Is he a true one receiver? He's very, very fast. I know he can create a lot of explosive plays, and he's going to take a lot of eyeballs. I don't know if he's a one receiver like people think he is. And if he is, I don't know what the cost is going to be to get someone like that, not to mention his contract. So there's a lot of factors at play here. I think it's always easy to talk about roster moves like it's Madden and you can just easily make roster moves, but it's not. I don't think it's that easy. And you don't want to see the Packers make this move and overpay for this guy in draft capital that you think is going to be this one receiver and the next Randy Moss or something like that. And it's just not, it's not paying off. You look back at the 90s and the Vikings gave up their entire franchise for Herschel Walker. And he ended up playing for him for a season and a half, 2 years. And it created a dynasty in Dallas. So I don't know. I think it's easier said than done to be we need a true wide receiver. We need a wide receiver one, and we need this, and we need this, and we need this, and we should just be able to get it that easy. It's just, it doesn't work like that. I think if a player truly provides that much value to a team, it's going to be very costly to get that player. There's only so many of those you can get, and you're hindering your future ability to run a franchise by acting like that. And I think it's a tough thing to do. I don't know. That's kind of my rant here. I'm going to check some comments before I get too far in. I see some more people checking in. Katie, good to see you as always. Kyle as well. Good to see you, man. Tom, thanks for swinging back in. Jordan. Here's my best Ben impression. Packers list on purpose. We get revenge on Eagles. We'll defeat the Lions and beat the Jordan. You know me too well. Wade, anytime you're putting in a Borat quote, we're doing well. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Green Bay would take him strictly because of the fact that anytime a guy's just like that unhappy and posting like that, that's just not Green Bay's way of going. I don't know. I just don't see them bringing in Hill either, like you said, for that reason alone. Not that he's necessarily old. I think he's still an explosive playmaker, but anytime you see a guy that vocal about wanting to be out, it just shouts not a Green Bay guy. And I know a lot of people want Green Bay to take more of those guys because there's upside with those guys, right? The attitudes. But I think Green Bay just stays away from that entirely. I think on defense, I'd like to see more guys with attitude. Mike Daniels has talked about that a lot, that he felt like in Green Bay that they didn't want you to have that attitude when you played. So I don't know. Maybe that's why Green Bay's defense is always kind of sus. I don't know. So Derek says, I'm not saying fire LaFleur, but why does it seem like we're getting out coached game after game? I mean, I think it's just bias as a Packers fan that we think he's getting out coached every game. Just like as Packer fans, we see stuff amplified because that's what we watch. We see injuries, and so we say, why is it always our players getting injured? We see bad plays happen, and we're like, why is it always our team doing X, Y, or Z? And I think it's just because it's what we see. It's just we watch a lot more Packers football than anything else. I would assume. I don't want to speak for you, Derek, but I know I watch Packers football a lot more than anything else. LaFleur has a winning record across the board. I mean, he's the second most winning coach in Packers history. So he has to be doing something right. Now, this year, we went 1-for-5 against our division. And I know that's created some frustration with people, but Minnesota loaded up on some or got some good free agents. Their defensive coordinator's incredible, and he's getting the best out of some of these guys. Detroit's drafted high for a long time. They're finally getting some payoff on some of these draft picks and really hitting. They have some good coaching staffs. They're putting together a good piece of the puzzle. So it's, he by no means calls a perfect game. If you were to ask him, he'd probably want a lot of different situations done on Sunday against the Bears. But I don't know. I mean, the other side coaches as well. And I think, getting out coached by a KOC in a game is going to happen. If you have two good coaches, they're going to go back and forth. Matt might win some of them and KOC might win some of them. That's just how it goes. Now, Dan Campbell's had Matt's number, but Detroit's on the much greater upswing than Green Bay is right now. Green Bay coming off of Rodgers. He was kind of coming down on his play. He had the broken thumb in 22. And then you bring in the youngest roster in the NFL, a lot of inexperienced guys. And as Packers fans, we're used to when we see inexperienced players on the field, we're used to a Hall of Fame quarterback being able to elevate out of that, right? We're used to seeing Rodgers kind of like overcome some of those blemishes that the Packers have. And you're not going to get that with a young Jordan Love. Down the road, will you get it? Maybe. We'll see how his career shakes out. But, you see back in 2008, Rodgers took a 13-3 team. They went 6-10. They had a lot of veterans, and they couldn't get it done. Then the next year, what did they go? 10-6, 11-5 maybe? And they made the playoffs for that first time. Now they lost to Arizona, but just because you lose a game doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting out coached. It just means mistakes happened and things happened. So I don't know. It's that's the NFL. Matt didn't coach for the special teams to screw up a punt return. Matt wasn't the one that didn't protect the ball in the Jaden Reed fumble. Now you coach guys to do this. You coach guys to do certain things, but you can't force them to do it. I don't know. I mean, it is, as a leader, ultimately ends up on his shoulders. I worked in management for a long time, managing a restaurant. Shout out to Arby's. And you could coach your employees up as much as you wanted to. You could coach till you're blue in the face, and you could mentor them, and you can train them and teach them. But ultimately, they're still going to make mistakes. They're human. And the other side in this situation, the other side is coached to do certain things as well. And, when you have two sides that are colliding, each side's going to make plays. And that's just how it goes sometimes. I don't know. And I'm not saying I'm not 100% right? Like Matt would be the first to admit that he's gotten out coached, but he's also out coached people too. So I don't know. I think we just have that bias because we see it so often. It's my long rant. I do appreciate the comment, Derek. You're always bringing good stuff to the show, so I really appreciate it. It wasn't all bad in the game, right? Josh Jacobs still did Josh Jacobs things. He ended his regular season with the second best numbers in his career, which is phenomenal. He had 1,329 yards rushing on 301 carries, 15 rushing touchdowns, which was a career best for him. Then he recorded his first ever receiving touchdown, which was huge. I know Chad was calling for that early on in the season, so we're glad he got one. Along with that, he broke Paul Hornung's record for most consecutive games with a touchdown with 8 consecutive games. Josh Jacobs, I mean, what a phenomenal signing. What a phenomenal signing. We didn't see him for what 2/3 of the game, a little over half the game anyway. I don't think he played the second half at all. After you see some guys kind of go down with injuries, maybe you reassess that. What is really nice is we saw Goody this past offseason sign Xavier McKinney. He signed Josh Jacobs. Both have had a phenomenal year. Both made it to the Pro Bowl, which just shows that I don't know. I mean, that's where people are like, oh, we need to fire Gutekunst, and it's just like I don't know. He's done a lot of good things with the roster. Now he's missed some picks, but show me one general manager who hasn't missed draft picks. Ron Wolf was notoriously bad at drafting, but he was able to assemble a championship team. So I don't know. What is even more beautiful is this offseason, the Packers are finally going to be able to get a little money back. We racked up the credit card back in like 2020, I believe. We re-signed Rodgers. We re-signed Bakhtiari, who unfortunately had that freak injury that pretty much ended his career now. He hasn't played since the Packers released him. And if you are on Twitter, I don't know if you can be able to see this that well. It's not the greatest screenshot here I took. But if you are on Twitter, this account, Ken Ingalls, is like a must follow. He does such a great job of posting salary cap information that I mean, if you're going to follow anyone on Twitter, I would say he's definitely one of them. But he said, as of right now, the Packers have 60 plus million in cap space for 2025. Now they have to account for some of that money already on future stuff, but that puts them at about $25 million in spendable money after accounting for all the future expenses and all the things kind of that are going to be coming our way. However, if the Packers do they can pull some levers. They can restructure some veterans. They can release veteran contracts. We might see that with Jaire. I'm going to guess we're going to see that with Jaire. They can add void years, kind of push that money down the road like we did, and what kind of put us in that hole. But that 51 million or additional 51 million, right? Yeah, 51 million more. So you add that to the 25 million, $76 million that you could potentially be looking at spending in free agency this year. If you can hit on another Xavier, if you can hit on another Josh Jacobs. Now, the linebacker Greenlaw from San Francisco, he might be becoming a free agent. Their cornerback Ward sounds like he's planning on pursuing free agency, not because he's unhappy with San Francisco. It sounds like him and his wife, their child, passed away while there, and being there makes him think of his child, and I think he has a lot of like PTSD with it. So he's just not wanting to be in San Francisco, which is as a parent to a very young child, I get that entirely. So that could be another great playmaker that you bring in as you're looking at to potentially replace a Jaire. So there's going to be some options. T. Higgins, we talked about him earlier. Potentially bringing him in. Not necessarily that Packers are going to just go on this huge spending spree, but there's going to be names and money that can be spent to hopefully place or to hopefully help fill these holes that we're seeing right now that are so glaring for this team. Along with that, I'm guessing you're going to see the Packers draft a lot to kind of fill that spot. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried drafting 2 to 3 corners, much like they did safety this past year. They've done it with wide receiver in previous years, and they did it with running backs years ago. It wouldn't surprise me. I feel like I'm just kind of ranting. I don't know. I feel like I'm just ranting. I'm not even talking about the game right now. I'm just kind of going off the script completely, which is okay. That's the fun of live shows. Now, I will say one thing as we're going over everything. One thing that like continues to irk me is, so Rich, our special teams coordinator, I know he's a big players guy, and I know the players love him, But like I get pretty frustrated that I believe he's still the highest paid special teams player or special teams coach in the NFL. And he is the assistant head coach, I believe, the assistant head coach. But it is incredibly frustrating to see continuous mistakes that are so detrimental to this team when you are like the highest paid special teams player. That fake return, the Bears ran that on us like a decade ago. I don't know if you guys remember that. They kicked it. Hester pretended like he was going to return it. They had their gunner field it, ran up the sideline. He returned it for a touchdown. It got called back on like this phantom penalty that I don't think was a penalty. The Packers lucked out on that one. They didn't luck out on this one. But to know that like how your gunner doesn't stay, I don't know. I don't know. I've never been a gunner in the NFL. I know you look at me and you think, holy cow, this guy is athletic. He probably has NFL experience, but I do not. So maybe it's easier said than done. I've seen it happen now twice to the Packers, and I've never seen it happen anywhere else. Now, this might be going back to that point where we talked about earlier about, you know, I only watch a lot more Packers football. So maybe it does happen elsewhere. Going back to your point, Derek, maybe it does happen elsewhere. And I'm just only seeing it when it happens to the Packers, kind of what I said earlier. I've only seen it happen to the Packers. Now I've seen it happen to the Packers twice. So it's super frustrating. I don't know. That's kind of my rant on that as well, is like, dude's paid as a special teams coach. And it seems like we're just still seeing a lot of things that are just sloppy. And that goes back to my original point too, I guess. You can coach till you're blue in the face, but it doesn't mean that the players are going to always execute. But Jason, good to see you, man. Hope all is going well over there. I need to get back over sometime. I need to see the shrine, hang out. I need to see what number your neighbor's at as far as beers. So Jason here is a guy I've gotten to know and become friends with over the years from my page. And I went to his house one time for a Packers game. And Jason's like the neighbor that you want to live by. Jason invites all his neighbors over for Packer games, and he keeps a running tally of everyone who's had a beer at his house. And he's got like the Hall of Famers that once they hit a certain level of beers, they kind of get their names in the rafters. Super cool tradition. If I were more social, I'd maybe consider doing that one day. But yeah, it was a great time going over to Jason's to watch game, and yeah, just had to tell that story because it was so fun. I will say, going with the special team, I feel like I'm all over the place tonight, guys. I'm sorry. We're just kind of getting all over the place. With the special teams, there are a lot of things that like frustrated me, right? Especially when you have that return. But one thing that didn't frustrate me, how about Brandon McManus? Wow. Ice in his veins. Just 55-yard boot to take the lead. I had to step away. I was like, I can't watch this. I'm going to have like a heart attack. I got to just step away. So I kind of listened downstairs, and kind of one of those peeking through my fingers deal. But ice in his veins, I'll tell you. If there is one thing I'm not complaining about, is the addition that he's brought to this team. And yeah, he's going to be a free agent after this year. So hopefully they're already, working on re-signing him or something. So I think if you can get him for another 2-3 years, that's a big win. Before I start talking about postseason stuff here, there is the forum. Once again, if you have not entered, do so now. I think we got to draw another scenario, because the scenario we had last week, I think, was Romeo Doubs over 100 yards. Actually, rather than redrawing, let's just do if any receiver had over 100 yards. I don't know that anyone did, but let me check this. I doubt anyone did, but let me just check real quick. I don't want to completely have to like look back through if we get some random thing about stats, but let me just check, because I don't think any receiver had more than 100 yards. We're already going to be doing two. Nope, looks like Malik Heath had the most at 53. We're going to be doing 2 giveaways, so that's all right. But there is that giveaway. If you've already entered it, don't do it a second time. Makes my life a lot more difficult having to filter through. And yeah, we'll be drawing the giveaway here a little bit later. Oh, Jenny, you're too kind. No worries about being all over the place. Our game Sunday was kind of that way. Shout out to Jenny as well. I don't check my P.O. box often because I don't really get mail there. But Jenny sent me a very nice Christmas card. So thank you, Jenny. That made my day the other day. It cracked me up. So thank you. Playoffs this weekend. We obviously have the Packers taking on the Eagles, the 7 seed versus the 2 seed. It's going to be a great game. We have Washington taking on Tampa Bay. Washington's the 6 seed. Tampa Bay's the 3 seed. Minnesota taking on the Rams, which should be a really good game. Minnesota's the 5 seed. The Rams are the 4 seed. I'll tell you, the Rams, depending on what, they're kind of like the Packers, right? Depending on what team shows up, they could be very dangerous. I wouldn't hate watching the Rams bounce the Vikings. I think that'd be pretty funny. I know Katie in Iowa's feeling that. I'm sure Chad's feeling that as well. Corey and Logan are probably feeling that in Minnesota. I know I have a handful of people watching in Minnesota area, Iowa area. So I'm sure no one would be complaining there if Minnesota got bounced by the Rams after having the season that they did. I'm here for it. Hopefully the Rams can do that. And I won't be watching because it'll be past my bedtime. But AFC, that's going to be interesting as well because Denver, who's coming in as the 7 seed, they seem like they're on a pretty good roll. They're going against Buffalo, who's looked like they've been on a good roll all year. However, Buffalo rested their starters that final game. Are we going to see Buffalo coming out to a slow start? We'll see. Pittsburgh, the 6th seed, taking on Baltimore, the 3rd seed. And then we have the Chargers taking on the Texans. Chargers are the 5th seed. Texans are the 4th seed. A lot of good football to be played this weekend. I don't know about you. I'm super excited to watch all of it, except if it's past my bedtime. Yeah, start dropping some questions if you got them. We're gonna jump into some burning hot questions. I already see some questions, but let's drop this video here. A huge thank you to Legendaries for sponsoring all season long. It is wild that the season's already done. The regular season's already done. Nonetheless, we're still here. We're still going on. Legendaries is going to be sticking here until after the Super Bowl for as long as the show runs. The show is going to run. Final show is going to be the Tuesday after the Super Bowl. I do have something else I'm going to be working on, which more details to come. And yeah, huge thank you to Legendaries all season long. If you go into Legendaries during a Packers game, you are going to be able to get dozen wings for only $10. And I don't think there's a limit on that. So load up on those dozens, get 4 or 5 dozen, do your thing. On top of that, if you are in the area, or if you're not in if you're in the area for the Super Bowl, I'll say that. If you're in the area for the Super Bowl, whether you're just coming to town, I know Chad's came to town randomly for the Super Bowl in years past. But if you're in the area for the Super Bowl and you're looking for a great Super Bowl food to bring to a party, to just eat by yourself, Legendaries also sells wings in 50 packs and 100 packs. So, I mean, be the hero of your Super Bowl party and just show up with like 100 Legendary wings. I might just have to scoop up 50 for myself. My wife doesn't like traditional wings. I don't know if I could eat 50, but I'll give the old run. But huge thank you to Legendary. So make sure if you're coming to town, go check them out. They're supporting us, so we want to make sure we're supporting them. So thanks to Legendaries. But yeah, let's answer some burning hot questions that you guys might have. Forgot to flip that overlay. Raymundo says, did you see Adrian Amos post? Seems like he's returning. That's what I understood, but just me. I didn't see Adrian Amos post. I haven't seen any roster moves by the Packers. I know the Packers mentioned that they were like Gutekunst was looking to potentially add a couple guys since we're going to be without Christian. He's going to go to IR, and then why am I spacing on who? Oh, Jair. And then once Jair went on IR, and they're looking to potentially replace it with people who know the scheme and know the system. I don't know that would describe Adrian Amos. I don't know. He's a safety, so it's not like we're going to be getting a lot of value out of that spot if we're looking to replace Jair, unless you're looking to bring other guys down and play more as a safety role. So I don't know what the plan is there. I also don't know what really they would be doing with that. I don't know. I don't know where he'd fit in that. So it's not necessarily like we're lacking safety depth right now, and I don't think he helps the corner spot or the safety spot. So I don't, or the corner spot or the wide receiver spot. So I don't know. Maybe he's just kind of goofing around a little bit. I don't know. Casey, this is the most formal thing you've ever said to me. Hello, Ben. I hope all is well. Few things here. LaFleur is a solid coach. CBS is the best Arby sandwich. But what do you think about McCarthy interviewing for Bears head coach position? Also, I need to drink a beer at Jason's house. You need to drink more than a beer at Jason's house. You need to get on the leaderboard, man. You need to get your jerseys in the rafters. Jason's a solid dude, super welcoming guy. You need to. You guys would get along for sure, Casey. If you would have came to the wedding reception, Casey, you would have been able to see Jason. So, I know you're too busy doing whatever you're doing while you're home visiting, but the chicken bacon Swiss is the best Arby sandwich. I will agree with you that. And then regarding, thanks for the question, Casey, and the very formal. So the Bears requested to interview Mike McCarthy from the Cowboys because he's technically still under contract with the Cowboys. The Cowboys denied the interview, so he will not be interviewing with the Bears. I wouldn't mind it. I don't know. It'd be kind of fun. Let's see here. What is Jacob's stats? I got to be to win on Sunday. I don't know if it needs to be anything outlandish. Great question here, Derek. I don't think it needs to be anything outlandish. I think you just need to have success. We're going to look a little earlier or a little later on in the show. Eagles have a pretty solid defense. I think they have the number 1 ranked pass defense, if I'm not mistaken. They have some really good corners. They have some great guys on the defensive line. It's going to be a tall task for sure. I think you just need to be effective with the run game. And I think you need to put yourself in these second and shorts, third and shorts, be able to open up the play action a bit more. It seems like I don't know if we saw Love throwing a lot of interceptions, right? I don't know if the pendulum kind of swung too far the other way where we've gotten a lot more conservative with things, because it seems like we're just not doing play action as much. We're not doing a lot of, or I should say as effective of play action. I don't know. The play actions kind of felt weird. So I don't know. I think you just need to be able to keep the defense honest the entire game and capitalize where you can and limit mistakes. We saw Jacobs have a lot of success. We saw Emmanuel Wilson have success. And I think we needed to see Jacobs continue to be successful and not start getting stopped consistently like we saw. Trying to think, what week was it? Was it Minnesota that we had some success early on and then they just completely stifled the run? You need to see him be successful throughout the whole game. Otherwise, it's going to be tough sledding for sure. Chris says, what are your thoughts on Watson? Good question, Chris. I was pretty irritated. We saw him go down Sunday with a knee injury. I was irritated that so many people immediately were like, oh, of course, Watson goes down with an injury. And I think, like, dude, at the time, I think to, like, kick a dude when he's down like that is just so wild to me. I don't, maybe I'm just, like, mentally, my first thought is, like, man, I hope he's okay. Like, I hope it's nothing serious. I hope it's nothing that's going to, like, alter his life. The dude had a non-contact injury, can happen to anyone. It was on the knee that wasn't even his injured knee. Like, I feel bad for the dude. Some people come into the NFL and they cannot get a good break. And it seems like that's kind of been Christian's start of his career. Now this year we didn't see him hindered by as many like hamstring issues or like soft tissue injuries as we've seen in the previous years. I think the going to Wisconsin, they went to, I think it was Madison. They did some studies and they figured out what's kind of going on with that. I think that's helped, but he still caught some bad breaks. He had the bruise on his knee that kept him out last week or the week against Minnesota. And then he had that like weird hyperextension from early on in the year because I think it was against Minnesota where he went down. Those are just bad luck plays. You know, the non-contact injury that can happen to any receiver at any time. We saw that happen to Jordy Nelson in preseason on a cut he's made a million times. It's just bad luck. I did see that if he were to end up on the physically unable to perform list starting into the next year, and he's not able to be elevated off of it, it sounds like the Packers would be able to retain him for another year because he was never active and his contract would roll a year. I think he does so much for this team. And I've talked about it a lot here that no one really I don't think he gets as much credit for what he does for this team because it doesn't always show up on the stat line. But I would love to have him if the price can stay well. I mean, you're not going to pay him a ton of money just because he hasn't been able to stay on the field as much as you'd like. But if you can get him at a reasonable price, I'd like to keep him around for what he does when he's on the field. Jason, this is a great question. Outside of the Packers, what is your next best Super Bowl matchup you'd be pumped about? Let me take a look. Oh shoot, I gotta plug in my laptop. Oh no, my charger's upstairs. All right, hold on. I'll be right back. My laptop. I hope it doesn't die. If it does, I'm gonna go back live. One second here. Sorry, guys. What kind of Bush League show are we running here? I was editing some clips and my laptop almost died and I had it upstairs. Usually I have my charger down here. So sorry about that. Wait. Now I'm out of breath because I'm out of shape and I had to run up a bunch of stairs. All right. Let's get back to this question. Outside of the Packers, what is your next best Super Bowl matchup you'd be pumped about? I'm going to say outside, I think Buffalo for sure. Buffalo won. I want Buffalo in the Super Bowl. And the NFC is the tough one. I don't want anyone in the NFC North if it's not the Packers. Man, that's tough. Maybe Tampa Bay. Why not Tampa Bay? I know they just beat us not long ago and they won the Super Bowl. But Baker Mayfield, I really like. I like that he was kind of a castaway. And now, now he's playing really well. So I think that'd be fun to see him kind of like that redemption. I don't know. I think that would be a fun one, but that's a good question. Hopefully it's the Packers and Bills. I think that'd be like my favorite. Hopefully, I don't know. I'd hate to hand Bills their fifth Super Bowl loss though. All right. Do you think Hurts will go Sunday? Still under concussion protocol? I think he will. Part of me is almost like, are they? I don't know the rules or regulations or the stipulations here, but part of me is like, are they? Do they have to test him every single day to bring him off of it, or are they? Are they kind of prolonging it to keep the Packers on their heels about who's going to play? But I think he's going to go. Heather, good to see you. Heather says, "What position do you think we should draft first?" That is a good question, Heather. I think a big part is like, what's the board say? Where we're going to be drafting? What's available on the board? I think your big point of need, especially with Watson's injury and not knowing what's going to happen with him, receiver becomes more of a need. Corner is going to be a huge need. Something on the defensive line to get a pass rush. I mean, you could have prime Charles Woodson, prime Tramon Williams back there. You could have, even upgrade Tramon Williams to Deion Sanders or your cornerback of choice. And if you don't have a pass rush, those guys are going to get shredded all day long. Maybe not shredded, but they're going to get holding calls all day long. It's going to be a nightmare. So I think if you can get that pass rush figured out, I think that's going to make life a lot easier for everyone. I don't know what that necessarily looks like either, because you have capital that you've invested in, and I don't know if you rotate through on guys to keep things fresh or what that looks like. I mean, I think the Packers could maybe even try to sign a guy in free agency that it could help them bring in some pressure there. But good question. Keep dropping your questions if you got them. Otherwise, we can be moving on here. I know it's probably getting close to us moving on regardless. But I think I don't think I missed any questions. Cool. Oh yeah, Ron, absolutely. Thanks for reminding me. Repost the drawing link. So here's the drawing link. If you have not entered, do so. I'll be drawing the giveaway here shortly. I got to tie my shoe. I almost fell running up my stairs. Only the highest of productions here. I mean, that's what happens when you're on a live show. Stuff's gonna go wrong. That's the beauty of live. Anything could happen. We'll draw that the giveaway winner here in just like a minute or so. Let Ron get in there. Ron, I hope you got it. Let Ron get in there. And yeah, so Raymundo is kind of like under my same assumption that they're gonna. I mean, Hurts is probably gonna be going. That would be my thought as well. Cool. All right. Yeah, let's best show of the year. Yeah, something like that. All right, let's answer this last question with Heather, and then we'll get to that giveaway. The two giveaways. I'm sorry, the two items, or two winners, I should say. Do you think using our last time out could have helped us against the Bears? I'm not sure. Like, if you're meaning like icing the kicker, I'm not sure in what regards you mean there, Heather. Josh, no. Romeo was actually out sick. He got sick just before the game, and he did not play. So you remember right, because he was not there. That's what I'm saying, Jordan. I don't know if you're mocking me again, but anything can happen in the playoffs. Anything can happen. All right, let's get into some giveaways here. As always, these wouldn't be possible without Legendary. Without Legendaries. These giveaways would not be possible without Nicolay. Nicolay Law helping me out big time, really helping give back to my incredible listeners, and Nicolay Law does so much for us. So all season long, we're going to be doing these giveaways solely thanks to Nicolay Law. So huge thanks there. All season long as well. If the Packers do lose, we're going to be doing double giveaways, because when bad things happen in your life, like the Packers losing, Nicolay's got you back. And imagine if they got your back over something so small like that, imagine what they could do if you're injured. So if you are injured, get Nicolay. So huge thank you to Nicolay Law. Let's I can't share this quite yet because I got to make sure. Oh wait, no, I can. I'm the way I'm sharing it makes it where you guys aren't seeing my screen. All right. Got to make sure that I don't have any duplicates going on here. hard to tell off of just this, but I don't think I do. Cool. Well, let's get these names and we're gonna plug them in once I get everything taken care of here. Like I said, we're gonna be doing 2 winners tonight. You have to be here in order to win and claim your prize. So 25 entries. Good luck. Let's draw the first one here. Looks like Liz. Liz, if you are here, congratulations. Please give me a 1 through 40, and if you want up or down. And then we're going to draw one more. Oh, Jenny. Jenny, please give me a 1 through 40, up or down. Let's draw the scenario for this weekend. I gotta figure out how I'm gonna do scenarios on the instance, or in the instance if the Packers were to be eliminated, how I should do the scenario at that point, because we're not going to have all of these. So if you guys have any thoughts on how I should do it, let me know. I still want to do scenarios as we go through the playoffs, even if the Packers aren't in it, just to keep giving you chances at winning some extra prizes. Hey, Tucker Kraft receiving touchdown. That's a pretty doable one. So maybe we'll see another couple giveaways next week, and Packers still rolling. So I see Liz there, and then I see Jenny. Awesome. We have not seen a Packers gift card get drawn yet this year. Maybe tonight's the night. I don't know what's in any of these envelopes. I've mixed them all up before I loaded them up, and then mixed them up again to put numbers on them. So I have no idea what's in any of them. But at a certain point, we're gonna have to hit a Packers gift card of some sort. We're getting down. We don't have a ton of items left here. I started the year with like a little over 40, I think, and we're getting down there. So I see both people, both Liz and Jenny, and I am going to be shipping these out next week, so they will not go out yet this week. Just to let you know, we have 23 up, so that puts us at 29. And then Jenny says 27 down, and actually that brings us all the way down to 8. You can tell everyone's picking kind of in that range. So we're going to start with Liz to see what she won. All right. All right, Liz. Thought it was an empty envelope there for a second. Liz, you won a John Kuhn signed 8x10. You probably can't see it because it gets blown out with the white. Maybe you can. So congratulations there, Liz. I will shoot you an email getting your address. And then we have Jenny, who did 27 down, which put her at 8. Which, Jenny, you won a Paul Kaufman signed 8x10. Paul Kaufman, great tight end for the Packers in an era. I mean, he really helped with that explosive offense in the early 80s. So a couple nice 8x10s there. Congratulations to you both. Appreciate you being here watching. Yeah, I'll like I said, I'll get those out next week. Jordan, this isn't a bad idea. In case Packers lose, do we just do scenarios for the team that beat the Packers and then potentially beat them? If let's say the Packers were to lose this weekend, we ride with the Eagles for scenarios. If the Eagles get bounced, we ride with the team that beat them. Only downside is then we could potentially be like looking at like Minnesota scenarios or Detroit scenarios. I don't know if we like that either. I like the idea though. That might be enough night. That might be a nice route to go. It's definitely a suggestion. I like it. Before we get into the game talk here, did you see Kraft sent Tucker Kraft a bunch of mac and cheese? I think they sent him 85 boxes, and in a huge box that said Kraft yak and cheese, if I'm not mistaken, which is pretty cool. All right, let's let's. Hey, I'm glad that Lynn Dickey got there. Yeah, you're gonna be. Oh, that's funny that you won the Lynn Dickey because Lynn Dickey was the quarterback in that era. So now you got his tight end that he threw a lot to. So that's awesome. All right. I think I elaborate more because spin the wheel for a team, like for a team to win. We got to kind of increase maybe the odds a little bit, so it's not like a 1 out of 3 or like a 1 out of 4 chance for a bonus giveaway. I mean, I'm okay with it. I just want to make sure that I have enough prizes to last the show. I don't want to try to scramble to figure out more prizes just for like an episode or two. So I need to make sure that my prizes at least last the show. All right, let's talk about this team here. This playoff game coming up. So we have the Packers taking on the Eagles in Philadelphia. The game is set for 3:30 on Sunday, which is, I think, the perfect time for some postseason football. This is going to be the 49th game between the Packers and the Eagles, and I was kind of surprised that their rivalry, their history goes all the way back to 1933, where the Packers defeated the Eagles for the first time, 35-9. The Packers, I didn't realize the Eagles were that old of a franchise. The Packers currently lead the series 29-19. However, they trail in the postseason series with only winning 1 game and losing 2. One of those losses coming in the 1960 championship game, where Vince Lombardi had his only postseason loss. The other 2 games were a bit more recent. We had the one that was the divisional round for the 2003 season, which we don't need to talk about that game. And then the other was the wild card game in the 2010 season that went on to be the start of the Packers Super Bowl postseason run. So I am excited to see what the 4th postseason game between these 2 franchises brings to us. It's going to be a battle for the Packers, like we talked about, but man, it's going to be exciting. Playoff football is always good. I mean, how can you hate on playoff football? Let's take a look at how these two compare. So we broke down the stats here. Not always the easiest to see, so my apologies. I know if you're watching on like a desktop or your laptop or what have you, it might be, or if you're watching on your TV, like Casey usually does, it might be a little easier to see. That's extra small tonight, so my apologies. But kind of breaking it down, the Packers lead in average total yards a game and average passing yards a game, where the Eagles lead in the average rushing yards a game and the average points per game. Interestingly, if you look at their average points per game, the Eagles are 27.2 and the average points for the Packers 27.1. They're pretty close there. Defensively, Eagles are taking the cake on this one. They have less average total yards, less passing yards allowed on average, and less points allowed on average. I believe they're the number 1 passing defense in the NFL. I'm almost positive of that now that I'm saying that. So their passing defense is really, really solid. So going to be putting a lot on Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson, Chris Brooks to hopefully be able to move that ball and keep the defense honest so you can open up that passing. My thought is Jalen Hurts has been out for a couple weeks now. If he comes back, hopefully you find him a little rusty. Maybe he makes a few mistakes and you can really make them pay for that. Saquon's going to be Saquon. We need to do a much better job of stopping him this round than we did week 1. I think he had 3 touchdowns collectively against us week 1 in Brazil. Week 1 was a lifetime ago. So week 1's game means nothing. Both teams are very different than where they were in week 1. And I think Eagles right now feel stronger at this point in the season, where the Packers feel maybe a little weaker. So it's going to be a tough game. But I like I ranted and rambled on earlier. Packers fans make it feel like it's such an impossible task to beat the Eagles. They're not like invincible. They're a strong football team. They're a great football team. But if you can limit your mistakes and if you can get out of your own way, I really think the Packers can beat anyone. The Packers get in their own way a lot. That's for sure. Whether it's through penalties or stupid turnovers or just other frustrating plays. As far as turnovers, Packers lead across the board when it comes to takeaways. They have more interceptions, more fumble takeaways, and total takeaways. Of course, if you're leading the other two, you're going to be leading the third one. As far as giveaways, though, the Eagles take care of the ball a little bit better. They lead on interceptions they're giving away. However, they fumble it a lot more, probably because they focus heavier on the run game. But overall, they've taken care of the ball better. But the turnover differential, the Packers are leading 12-11. So it's going to be a tough one. But that's playoff football. Every game in the playoffs is going to be a tough one. Even teams that you're like, oh, this should be an easy game for one team or the other, it's going to be a tough game. It's not too often in the playoffs that you just see like a team just get blown out. It usually just doesn't happen. These are going to be all like top teams ready to go. It's going to be extra hard because you're in Philly. They're going to be loud. They're going to be ready for the game. Yeah, I don't know. I hope we're talking next week about Packers taking on the Lions and talking about how big of a game the Packers had against the Eagles, because anything could happen for sure. Raymundo says, I honestly think if our cornerback hold up and our D-line brings some pressure, we have a huge chance to win, but those are our damages. We're talking coaching strategy. Should we bring the safety? And you don't want my coaching strategy. I don't know. I mean, I think it's all like, I'm just going to give you all the cliche stuff. I think like, yeah, if you can get the pressures, that's going to be huge. The Packers haven't been able to consistently get pressure. Or if they do, they seem to go outside and do too much pressure and create running lanes for the quarterback, which is going to be really hard going against Jalen. You need to not only be able to contain him, but you need to make him feel that pressure. You need to be able to get home, force him to throw passes that he wish he wouldn't, and capitalize on that. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a good game. I think, like I said, Packers fans are blown it out of proportion. I think a lot of them think it's going to be Eagles winning by like 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns. I saw people saying, and it's just like, okay, I'm gonna guess it's gonna be closer than that. Anything could happen, of course, but let's not get too dramatic. All right, and as always, before we finish the episode, I like to tell a fun story. Story of the week, some Packers history. This week's no different. So, in 1960, the Packers and Eagles faced off in the They faced off in the NFL championship game. We talked about that a little earlier. The Packers ultimately fell just 9 yards short of winning the championship. They lost to the Eagles 17-13. I think that's where Vince Lombardi's quote came from, that we didn't lose the game, we just ran out of time, because the Packers were driving the ball. They threw it over the middle, got tackled at the 9-yard line, and the Eagles player kind of laid on the receiver for a bit until the clock ran out. I don't think they would have been able to spike the ball in enough time anyway, but they ended at just the 9-yard line. That would have been their first championship win since 1944. So it was a huge deal to lose that one. After the game, Vince Lombardi addressed the locker room. He came into the locker room and he assured the team that they would never lose another championship game again under his leadership. Not only was Lombardi correct in that prediction, but his Packers also never lost another postseason game during his tenure. Following the 1960 season, Lombardi and the Packers went on to win 5 of the next 7 championship. 5 of the next let's start that again. Lombardi and his Packers went on to win 5 of the next 7 championships. Along the way, Vince secured his place in history as only the second coach in the NFL to ever achieve a three-peat, winning 3 consecutive championships. The first was Curly Lambeau, who led the Packers to 3 championships in a row from 1929 to 1931. So as the Chiefs are now chasing their three-peat, just know that the Packers have done it twice. The Packers are the only team to do it during a playoff formation or a playoff type of scenario. The first three-peat they did was not during that, but the second three-peat was definitely during the playoff era. So there's your fun story. Vince Lombardi shooting a shot, calling a shot, and not only doing that, but backing up his words. So yeah, appreciate you guys hanging out. It's going to be a tough task this weekend, but I think it's going to be a good game, and hopefully we're here talking about the Packers and Lions, like I said. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for hanging out, whether it's your first time or your 17th or so at this time. So I appreciate all of you. And until next time, I hope you have a good week. I hope it's a great week for you guys, and go Pack Go. We will see you next Tuesday, same time, same place. Go Pack Go.